Senator Jeff Merkley, you've heard some articulations of the hallowed principles that the filibuster guarantees. How much are you thinking about preserving those principles, and what specifically are you saying you're going to reform about the way it works?
Yes, everything that we're proposing enhances the role of the filibuster in presenting debate to the American people and views of colleagues to the rest of the body. And indeed, specifically, first, that you can't filibuster a motion to get a bill to the floor. That's like saying we're going to enhance debate by blocking debate. Right. It's illogical.
So it's filibustering even before the debate starts is the important point for people to realize. And I just want to check in with our esteemed panel of Senate experts here. Are you gentlemen on board with that change?
I am. Absolutely.
All right, we have two. Okay, we have two votes even from the filibuster defenders here for getting rid of a filibustering a motion proceed. Vicky, also? Yes. Okay, good. We've got unanimity at the table. I know Akil's on board. Okay, what else?
Second is to take away the filibuster of getting a bill to conference committee, because, quite frankly, at that point, both houses have passed a bill. You should get to negotiations as quickly as possible.
Let me explain this to everyone. Let's say you've passed the. Now we're going to do a little schoolhouse rock about how a bill becomes a law, right? You've passed a bill through the House. You've passed a bill through the Senate. You now have two different bills which inevitably are a little different from each other. They have to be reconciled in something that's called the conference committee. The point is, you've already gotten it through the houses. You shouldn't have to overcome a filibuster just to move it from that point in the process to the conference committee. Do you guys agree with that?
Yes, and it's important to note that you can still filibuster the conference report when it comes back.
Right, because the Senate's got to pass it again.
That's the substance.
Absolutely.
Right.
Once again, we're with Senator Merkley on this.
Good.
There are three separate debatable motions that get the Senate to conference.
Right.
There's no justification for them to be debated.
So we got some consensus here about these two, and then the third one I think is the biggest one, right, Senator?
Yes. The third is a talking filibuster. This is the idea I started putting out 2.5 years ago of saying people keep coming to us and saying, why don't you get something done? You're the majority. And we say, well, because Republicans are filibustering. And folks say, well, no, they're not. We never see them. We tune into C-SPAN, and all we see is a quorum call. And in fact, what's happened is Mitch McConnell has orchestrated a strategy of killing bills in the middle of the night. We no longer have the culture, the social contract, that if you're going to object to a simple majority, you're going to come to the floor and you're going to make your views known before your colleagues and the United States. And quite frankly, all we're saying here is that if you don't have the courage of your convictions to come and debate the issue after you vote for more debate, then we should get on with a simple majority vote.
My sense, Akil, is that you are in favor of that change.
Oh, all these and way more. And if these changes are adopted by simple 51 vote margin, I think a precedent will be established that the rules can be changed by 51 votes. And if indeed the Senate is a continuing body, I actually think there's a very strong case that it is. This means if we need to go back for round 2 or round 3 of filibuster reform, not on day 1, we may, and we should, and we will need to, I predict.
I mean,
Rich,
bingo. That's the crux here. You keep discovering that we don't have a lot of disagreement about the bad behavior we're seeing in the Senate right now, the abuse of the filibuster rule. The question is, do we believe that it's worth protecting? And certainly we do.
And I think it sounds like Senator Merkley does as well.
Yes. Well, all of the reformers, I don't know of any member of the Senate who's saying they want to do away with the filibuster.
Yeah, it's just Akil and I
all
are
of the reformers are saying that. But when you get to this question of the Constitution, here's where the problem is, and here's where ultimately I'll wind up disagreeing with the senator. And that is, when you use the constitutional option, which, as the distinguished former parliamentarian said, is, it's not in the rules, it's not in the precedent.
It's in this.
It's not in the Constitution. With all due respect, I don't believe it's there.
Here, checks and balances, all sorts of things are here that aren't in so many words.
In order to do that, what it will require is for the Vice President, the presiding officer, in January, to rule that it only requires 51 votes.
Right.
That means that he will have to ignore the rules of the Senate, he'll have to ignore the precedents of the Senate, and he'll have to tell the current parliamentarian sitting below him on the dais, who normally swivels around and gives advice to the presiding officer, which is almost always followed, he will have to tell her, swivel back around because I'm going to ignore what you're telling me and I'm going to rule this way. And then, one more point. And then, if Senator Reid has 51 votes to support that ruling, then he can establish the precedent. And exactly what you're saying is the advantage to that is where I see the danger.
Right, so,
and that is that it's a slippery slope.
Right.
The reformers say that they don't want to do away with the filibuster, but that's the inevitable outcome of establishing the precedent that the majority
Understood.
can...
So, Al, I want to get your thoughts on this. Senator, I also want to get your thoughts on this. We're going to take a break. Vicky, I'd like you to weigh in right after this break.